Right, guys. Just been mulling over, looking at what's happening in the UK, Great Britain, England, whatever you want to call it, um, and with the latest developments and the way things are going generally in the UK. I mean, you wouldn't want to just move because there was a bit of unrest, but like, there's a lot of other things going on which are a lot worse than the current happenings, like the cost of living, and maybe there's a food crisis coming up. I think there is, and I predicted that back in 2018 because it's too crowded and it's too reliant on other things and it's too unproductive. The UK, there's a lot of hands out, a lot of mouths to feed, and it's crowded, and a lot of it's like a perpetual society of just sports and leisure and what did he call it? Um, Hospitality industries, and it's like a perpetual thing, which is great when it's in full blast because the money's going round and round and round, which is good for any economy. That's beginning to happen here in Bulgaria. It's beginning to become self-perpetuating, whereas they don't really need masses of outside influence, because it's all in house now, and that's what's I can see is happening, and people hang on to the money um, a lot better because that end of it's cheaper. Not so much the food and the shopping; that's about the same as all the rest of Europe, including the UK, actually. But it's the other stuff like the housing and the rents and all that kind of thing, and the energy. It's affordable to live here. Um, just about, if you're at the lower end of the scale, which you've got people at the lower end of the scale everywhere in the world, everywhere, who are going to be struggling. So I would always say, look at the average wage and see what they can afford. And a lot of people here live in already paid for accommodation, owned accommodation outright. And those that do rent, the rents are still pretty much okay here because there's not the big burden of mass influx of people. If anything, it's getting less. Which I've always sort of argued that like depopulation is not as bad as they make out. If it gets too sparse, well, things things decline, and businesses do close. They need a certain amount of footfall, obviously, a certain amount of people. But generally, I mean, if you get it, if Bulgaria can get to a stage where the decline is arrested, kind of, curtailed, which I think, you see a lot more kids around these days, and a lot more people are staying, and a lot of people are coming back. So, there seems to be plenty of people around with new cars, things like that. So anyway, so the purpose of this video would be: is it a viable option for anyone in the UK? So I would start looking at this, and I would start sort of aiming at people 40 plus, right? Let's start there because that's when I started. Yeah, and I was on zero actually at 40. I'd just come out of a marriage and walked away with zero. from abroad, and I entered into the UK with zero when I was around about 40, maybe I think it was 39, 40. So it can be done. So you got to look at it, and I always look at things in 5-year bites. Any more than that, you don't know what's going to happen, and a lot of things are happening, as you can see. A lot of things change. So you've got to go 5 years, 5 years, 5 years, and see, and make a 5-year step on a 5-year plan. It's not the last plan. It's the next 5-year plan, which go by quite quickly, actually. So I did that. I sort of got back to the UK and I thought, like, well, I've got to stabilise now. And I got this great big house, kind of, it wasn't derelict, but it was like in need of a lot of TLC, and which it got. And so my 5-year plan is I've got this great big house. What am I going to do in the next 5 years? So I thought, like, well, I'm going to consolidate, try and get a bit of money, and I'm going to do the house up room by room. And I allocated at that time, because I had to basically do the windows, a little bit of a rewire, not a full rewire. I just had to add on because it didn't have enough wiring, outlets and stuff like that. But it had been part rewired. So you got to go first 5 years, what we're going to do and where we're heading. And so that was when I was 40 and starting from fresh. So anyone can do this if you've got a little bit of planning, a little bit of, and you probably have to have an above average wage. No one's ever going to do anything on the minimum wage anywhere. That's just the way it is. So this is not aimed at those people, because they're always going to be where they are, always. So if you've got an above average wage, and I could actually control my income quite a bit, because you can. When I was freelance, you could get the big paying jobs, which means big hours and big days. But like if you've got a means to an end and the energy to do it, you can do it, So that's the first thing. Criteria. You've got to have an overall plan, maybe 5-year bites. That's what I've always done. All throughout my life, really. Just look what's ahead. You can usually tell more or less what's going to be the 5-year plan, and with property, you can say, right, I'll get this house, I'll renovate it, and then I'll get out. And say over 5 years, if you're working full time, long hours and everything like that, and you want to do most of it yourself, which is what I did. I only really got trades in for plastering and a bit of wiring, and all the rest of it I did. I would do the windows and install the windows, which is pretty easy, and the floors. I'd laid the floors, which were oak floors in this case, and that's pretty easy. Bit arduous, but with the flooring, you get a nice result at the end of each day, which I liked. And I can do most of the plumbing. I installed the bathroom and the toilet and everything. The plumbing's quite easy in the UK. The clicking, just click and fix kind of thing, and it all just slots together. So I did all that. And it was, and then I split the house. It was a big Victorian house, and then it was actually 2 apartments when I bought it, but I had to convert it back into a house because I had two of everything. I was paying 2 water rates, 2 electric bills, 2 gas, 2 everything. So I converted it back into one house. But with the flick of a switch, I could separate it again, which was always the plan. I was going to put it back into 2 apartments and sell the separate apartments, which is what I did. And so these are just ideas what people can do, And I think a big house, big doer-upper, and it's always the area, isn't it? You get like on the edge of an area, but never get in a bad area, because that's just like that applies to any country, and it applies to Bulgaria as well. And you've got to choose the area quite especially if you're looking for bargain properties. You can get crossover areas which are up and coming, and they're on the edge of a decent area, and there's a chance that it will be the good area will spread into the area you are, rather than the bad area will spread. And they're like the good properties right on the edge of the decent areas, especially in the UK, and you can usually predict that if you know what you're looking at, and you know the area, local knowledge and all that. So then I'd be looking at, you've got to take the view of where are you now, and if you might even have had a mortgage for 15 years by now, age 40, 45, and you may be 10 years into one, you got 10 left. So that'd be, if you're 45, you'll be paying your mortgage off 55, right? Which that's, I think, where everyone should be aiming at in a place like the UK, with the uncertainty of the interest rates and that. You can usually sort of get yourself in that position if you've got anything up here, and you've got a decent wage or 2 decent wages coming in, and don't waste them. Don't waste the wages. You've got to start being frugal early doors. It's no good becoming frugal later on. Don't waste money. Don't waste money on going to Fiji or ridiculous kitchens for 20 grand. It's not going to improve the house by 20 grand, believe me. These kitchens, unless you're going to stay there for good, get a 20 grand kitchen, if you can afford it, if you're loaded. But by and large, I've just put a kitchen in here. It's actually from the Ukraine, and it looks okay. It was only about put it together. I did it all myself for about 500 quid. It's not 20 grand, but it looks all right. I could have done a better job, but it's a kitchen and it's functional. It looks quite good, actually. I like it. So anyway, so you've got to look at things and say to yourself, this is aimed at people who want to get out of the UK, right? So you got to look at where you are and when you want to get out, and when's a good time to get out. It's probably not immediately. You're probably thinking, hang on a minute, well, it's going downhill, but you want to get out eventually, or maybe you want to just cut and run sooner, and you can aim for that as well, So I did that, but what I did is I did it incrementally, and this is a good plan, actually. This is a good one, which is say, right, I might want to go there, I might want to go to Bulgaria, right? And if you've got a bit of equity in your house or whatever, this is how I did it. And you're looking at these properties for cheap, and even a ruin with a good footprint, you know. It'd be wise to get a good footprint, because then you don't need all the permissions and planning permission and go through all the design stages and all that. All you do is rebuild on the footprint, or get a good structure. And the bare bones, just get a good structure with a good roof, and buy it now as soon as you can, with the view of the future, 5-10 years time or whatever. Get a good, if you can, this is a good plan, get a good piece of land, decent size, and start planting trees, fruit trees and like an orchard or whatever, and make sure you go there or get somebody around who's going to look after just trimming, basically, and plant all these trees. And I did that a bit later on in the last house, and I should have done it much earlier. And you can get a decent plot of land, I would say, maybe 2,000 square meters. 1,000's good enough if you do a compact garden type thing, which is what I had. It's fantastic. It's amazing the stuff you can get out of it. I've got 2,000 here, but a lot of it's very steep, and most of it's very, very steep. So I'm not really doing much with it, except for, you know, I'm getting a few trees down every year for firewood at the moment, which is good, and the others are getting bigger every year. So you just make your way up the hill, kind of thing, you know. And it's big, because if it's a steep land, and if it's 2,000 meters on plan, and it's 45-degree slope, it's double on the surface area, if you know anything about surveying. Anyway, so it's big. It's a lot bigger than on a flat, because they do it by plan, on plan, looking directly from above. So if you've got a piece of paper and you do that, and you put a plan of the same area which is flat, it can be double. It's 45 degrees, which this, I don't think it's quite 45, but it's pretty steep, you know. So which helps having trees on it as well, for any land creeping. But anyway, that's an aside. So so yeah, if that would be a good one if you want. If you're looking ahead, and you say you're 45 and you go 55, and then you know, you don't get your pension or company pension by, you know, usually you can opt out earlier. Like if you're in the fire brigade or stuff like that, they have quite early payoffs. And you got to look at that kind of thing as well when you're eligible for a payoff, if you want to get out of the UK, or if you want to wait. I wouldn't wait past 60 to move abroad. I wouldn't wait past 60 if at all possible. I'd be getting out and moving when I was about 57, 58. You've probably got a little bit of energy left. and do it like that. I wouldn't wait till retirement age. You're probably too old to start afresh then. You want to be established by that time, you know. These are just thoughts and pointers, you know. And this is just my, and basically almost what I've done. But I started quite early in my journey on setting things up, and I was getting a good infrastructure in place, you know. And I bought some land, and apart from a house and land, well, I bought a few, because they were cheap, and I was, you know, I was earning good money, decent money, and my mortgage was next to nothing in the UK. You know? And in the last 5-6 years I was there, I'd sold up by then, and I was going backwards and forwards. But with all these things, you've got to think outside the box. Forget your traditional life. You've got to go alternative thinking. You've got to do things that people don't do, and that was one of them. I used to go and contract in the summer, which was nice. In a caravan in the UK, it's okay, You couldn't live in a caravan here in the summer. You'd bake. You'd be in the morning. You'd be like a piece of bacon. It'd cook you. And likewise in the UK, you wouldn't want to be in a caravan in the winter. And I've done a couple of winters in the caravan there. And one time I was in Scotland in Dundee, and I couldn't. We got to about. I got up there in about September, something like that. And the winter was coming in, and I had to get out of the caravan. It was gonna. The wind. You couldn't sleep at night. It was like rattling itself to pieces, this caravan. And we had one windstorm, and all the trees were coming down. And that was it. I had to move into some bricks and mortar, which was brilliant. Actually, it was fantastic. In Broughty Ferry. So that's what you could do it incrementally here, or just buy a plot with a ruin, but make sure you've got the water and electric supply there that can be switched back on, because it'll be probably turned off if you buy a ruin. But if you've got the services there and you've got the footprint and everything, and and the land is demarcated, and you just, even if you buy a decent plot, you can start doing the land every year. You can come and just stay in a hotel nearby or wherever, or get a caravan on the land. People do that. I would do that, but I wouldn't do it in the summer. Probably September, October would be the best time for that, if you're going to stay in a caravan. Get the land, or in the spring, the end of March, something like that, and or just stay nearby somewhere, But if you start early like that, then you've got all the, it's all in place now at today's prices. So if they do go up, which they're quite highly likely in Bulgaria now, you've already made the plunge. You've got the bare bones, and you can always sell it as a ruin again with the plot. So or you can get a good structure, like I said, and keep it watertight. Just do that and have nothing inside it, because if they know you're not there for years and years, it's like anywhere, they'll alleviate you of your stuff. Never happened to me. I used to leave my place for long periods, but I had people looking after it, And that's another thing, if you want to, and have a holiday home now, I think a good way to go then would be to get a place where you can let it out while you're not there, and then you've got a holiday place when you come, but you need someone then to run it for you, someone who you can communicate well with, and you can also have a holiday home which you just walk in, and they've done the garden and all that, and it doesn't have to make money, does it? I had one, and it didn't make me any money on paper, but what I had is a house which was fully functioning all the time, and in tip-top condition, and I'd just walk in, and it was all done, because we were renting it out, so it had to be up to scratch. So there's a few ideas on how to plan ahead, plan your future, or you can just get to paying your mortgage off, and just before 60 or 55, and if you've got a load of savings, make the plunge But I wouldn't buy somewhere straight away in a certain country doing that. I might buy a piece of land or something, but I wouldn't dive in. A lot of people do that and they run out of money very quickly as well, because they think this money's going to last forever, and it doesn't. Because what they do is they go on a jolly and they start eating out every day and all that. I've seen people do that, and if there's a family, you can burn through the money, living it up, even in Bulgaria, because the food's it's not peanuts here, and especially eating out now. So I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't just sell up and dive in. I wouldn't do that. I might sell up and just not dive in, and just go slowly, and just do bit by bit, But it's hard when you got a family who like spending money, which I was kind of on my own, and I don't spend money. I do anything but spend money. So and I had a load of properties then, that I've sold progressively as I've been here the last 5 years or so. And if you're frugal, and the average wage in Bulgaria is 50 lev a day, right? And the British pension is higher than that. So if people can live here on like average wage, not the minimum wage. The minimum wage is 30 lev a day. I looked it up the other day. 30 lev a day, which is about £14, something like that, £13, which isn't a lot of money. And even here, like, you could survive if you were living in somewhere where you owned outright or you'd inherited or something, which a lot of people do. You could survive on that, but like you wouldn't be living the life, But 50 lev is okay, If you're a sensible person and you don't eat out and you live just normal life, cook your own food, you can easily live on that. I live on less than that, a lot less. Now the pension, the British pension, is about getting on for 12 grand now. It's 11,000 something for the full pension, which I'm eligible for when I get there. So I've got to get from here to there now, which I can do comfortably. I only spend about €6,000 a year here. So imagine when I get to the pension, which is over double. I'll be living it up. I'll have my cream suit out and, snakeskin shoes. And I'll be, I might get a cravat and start living it up, But like, in addition, if you've got some other investments, which I've got, like, you can be comfortable. And back in the UK, I'd be struggling like hell, I couldn't do it. Imagine the wind battering against the window and you're like, all these bills are coming through the door. I don't get bills here. My last electric bill, 3 electric bills were above £12, and my water bill's about £2. That's it. Council tax for the year, it's about £15, if that. I think it was £12 this year. So you're talking those type of costs are cheap here. Now the food's about the same Europe wide. Foods are all about the same. There's some things that are a bit cheaper here, but there's some things that are more expensive than other countries, So you've got to know, if you're frugal like me, what everything costs, everywhere. And I pay more for some things because I want them and I can afford them. But like, I could do without them if I had to, like, butter. I'd probably make my own butter, and I'm going to have a go probably making butter and ice cream, because you get good raw milk here. And anyway, that's we're going off on more tangents. So if you want to do it, there's various ways you can move abroad. If you're fully paid up and you've got loads of savings, and you really want to get out, and you can't see the future in the UK, which I couldn't see a bright future there, and even more so now. And I'd be looking at doing that. And if you can't afford it, look at it incrementally, But I would then get somewhere as soon as you can, like a ruin, so it's there then. And that ruin in 10 years' time, say you decide not to come, you can probably make money on it, or get your money back. But it's there if you want it. If you want to move here, it's there, and you could even start building in the meantime. Get it like a frame up, get a concrete frame up, and do it like that. Do it year by year if you're earning good money. That's what I used to do. I used to do houses up incrementally over the years, and I had a project every year. I allocated a project. It was probably usually about $5,000 I put in every year, and that's what I'd do. I'd come here for like 3-4 months, maybe 5 months, and I'd do a project every year, and it's paid off now, and I'm all right now. So there's various ways to look at things and the ways to do it, and that's a good one, incrementally. And there's a very good tip: buy a house, and start your permanent visa process straight away. Get your card, get your first card, and your first long stay visa. I think it's 5 years or 2 years. I'm not sure how it is now. Just look it up. But start that process, and start planting trees if you haven't got any. I started a little bit later, but I had about 12 trees on the land, about 8 apple trees, pear tree, and I had another one, a quince tree, and so I had plenty of fruit anyway, and plenty of grapes. So, but if you've got a piece of land, start planting, because it's cheap, and you won't even miss the money. Say you never ever did anything, or you never came permanently, your trees are only costing like 10 quid each, if that. You can usually get some cuttings off someone, I've just started a load of grapes here, and I should have started them earlier, but everything was uncertain, in the medical crisis and all that. But I should have started doing a few things earlier here, because this is where I was heading for, ultimately. I did quite a lot, actually. I shouldn't beat myself up, because I did a lot of infrastructure works here, a lot, and it did pay off, actually. So I shouldn't be too harsh on myself, because and I was burnt out. I'm just about like normalizing now, like after all those years of doing everything here and doing everything in the UK as well. So there's the way to do it, but there's no free lunches, no easy way to do it, but it can be done. That's the message here from me. It can be done, and I've done it, and I was on a normal wage, not a low wage, above average, but not a high wage. Definitely not a high wage, because I didn't work the whole year. I used to just save like mad, and be frugal like crazy, and bring the money here, which got you twice as much. That's another thing. Okay, cheers.